everybody. It feels good to be back. Welcome for another episode of DU.
Uh-oh.
I was like, hi, everyone. Welcome to DU Raw. It took me like a whole minute to really, like, is it real? Is it raw? It's kind of both, you know, tomato, tomato. So be it. But fuck, man. It feels good to be back, Jackie. I am glad that I'm here with you. I missed you. How are you doing?
I am quite swell. I am very happy to be back as well. It's been forever since we've done a Do You Real, it feels like. So, yeah, lots to chat about. I'm feeling great. I had a nice little workout this morning and I I'm double fisting my two bevies right now, so really can't complain. Um, just excited to be here, honestly. There were some things on my mind kind of before the call because I'm thinking about this idea of like holding ourselves back. And I was thinking about, it's a small example, but my relationship to Instagram. Because for some reason, like I post whatever the fuck I want on TikTok and I don't care, but for some reason Instagram is a struggle for me. And every time like I think about wanting to post more just like videos and like the stuff I put on TikTok of just me like sharing insights or sharing little yoga flows, like I get really overwhelmed and then I'm just like, oh, I'll do it later. And I've just been reflecting on that and
Mhm.
really just admitting to myself that nobody's going to fucking take that step for you.
Mm-mm.
And there's never going to be a time where it feels comfortable to do it. The only way you make it feel comfortable is just by doing it enough times. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm just reflecting on the ways that I hold myself back and really how that doesn't serve me at all because I still have the desires to do certain things.
Right.
And yeah, Marie, this question, do you have more family and friends on Instagram? Yes, that is the case. It's
Right.
tied in with like a fear of being seen, but really and actually Jay posted a video today that kind of I felt called out because he was like, do you have a fear of like being perceived or like expressing yourself outwardly? It's just because you're judging yourself and you're assuming that everybody else out there is just waiting to judge you,
Right.
and in reality they're not. And the times that I do share something that I'm vulnerable feel vulnerable sharing, usually the response is positive,
Yeah.
if anything. Most of the time people just don't really give that much of a fuck. So
There's that.
yeah, so yeah, it's interesting how like we'll hold ourselves back in some ways or like hold on to the things that make us comfortable in some areas but still be like pushing out of our comfort zone in other areas. But I guess what I'm realizing is that it's just never worth it to do that at all
Yeah.
in the first place, because how is that helping anyone?
No, it's the only thing it helps you to do is to feel more certain about what's happening. You know, that's really all it does. Or maybe it helps you feel better to some degree, because you feel more certain and it feels like you are taking you're in control of the situation because you're aware of the judgments and you've already got a plan in place and you're already implementing not sharing because of those hypothetical judgments. So it feels like your hypothetical world is under control to some degree. But I resonate with this so much. This was something that I experienced during the last Denver retreat this past last weekend, and just feeling that way, feeling so insecure, feeling like I wasn't saying enough, or what I was saying was stupid or unrelatable or superficial and it wasn't deep, and thinking that I needed to put on this role. And then I freaked myself out because I thought that all these hypothetical judgments that people could make were being made. And then I just didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to share. I didn't want to talk. I just wanted to run and hide in a corner. And I legitimately did do that. I did legitimately not ran, but I definitely walked to my room, and I just hold myself up there because I thought that the hypotheticals and the things that could happen um, were inevitable. Like it was so, like it was just going to happen. And I kind of had to just I kind of just let myself sit in that, and then just call myself out to some degree. Like, what are we just going to cry in the corner forever? Are we just going to be nervous in the corner forever? Stop putting baby in the corner. Have we learned nothing from Dirty Dancing? Like, don't put baby in the corner. Let baby dance. Let baby be judged. Let baby be free. Essentially, just do it anyways, despite the fear, because you're not entirely sure. This thing that you're worried could happen. Could is the most is a word to zoom in on. This scenario that could happen isn't happening now. And that's what I kind of had to pull myself back to. And even if it does happen, that says more about what the other people are prioritizing than about you. Because if they're judging you for, like, I can't believe you said that. Like, don't you think people are going to judge you? And it's like, they just confirmed that that's something that they're concerned about. you know um I would, I'd be chatting with someone, bodies might come up, body shapes, and someone will be like, oh, I love how I what is it, like, I'm so nervous, like, you don't have to have a certain shape, but I always worry about my weight. And it's like, okay, well, you're not concerned about the shape of your body, but you just said that you're concerned about, like, how much it weighs. And then you look at other people, oh, she's so thin, she's so athletic, she's so muscular, he's so athletic. You think about those things, and it's like, okay, well, no one's told you that you had to be more muscular. No one told you that you had to be lighter, heavier, skinnier, taller. Like, no one actually confirmed to you that you needed to do that. And even if they did, you're like, I don't have to. And it's so funny that you will tell someone else, I don't have to, but you won't tell yourself, oh, I don't have to be that. Oh, I don't have to meet that standard. Oh, I don't have to pick that option. But it's much easier for you to tell somebody else who puts a standard on you, oh, I don't have to do that. But when we say that to ourselves, it's like, no, I've just created this irrefutable standard that you have to live up to, even though you're not entirely certain about that standard. And you can't even say for sure where it came from, because most likely it wasn't yours to begin with. It's just like a standard of measurement that you inherited from someone else in your life, family, friend, coworker, romantic partner, trusted friend, whoever. You took a standard of measurement from them, and then forgot that it wasn't always yours, so it wasn't always something to live up to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really relatable. Like, you give other people a lot more grace. At least I tend to do, and like, seems like you're kind of on the same page with that. Like, um it's easier to see other people out there doing their thing, and maybe doing things that, like, I probably would be scared to post, but be like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah," like, and
Do it.
support them. But when I think about me doing it, it's somehow different. And I think when you look at it like that, it really is just because I'm attached to me and this story, right? And I feel like there is something at stake in terms of the idea of myself. And that's just not the case,
Mhm.
because the idea of myself isn't who I actually am. It's different in every single other person's mind. And I just believe that my idea is the most true.
Right.
And that's just not the case. But we all have this narrow minded view, like hyper fixated on ourselves, and just this, like, small, limited perspective that becomes like a cage
Yeah.
that we hold ourselves in. But in reality, like, and we try and pin that judgment on other people, and we're like, oh yeah, other people are going to judge me if I step out of this cage. In reality, nobody else sees that fucking cage. And you just don't really want to admit. I don't want to admit to myself that it's me judging me and that
Mhm.
I'm the only one holding myself back, because that makes me feel kind of dumb. But it's not about judging yourself for
Right.
holding yourself back. It's just knowing that you don't have to do that.
Mm-mm.
And that gives you the courage to then step out of your comfort zone, only to discover that, oh, yeah, the world isn't going to end, right? Like, all my friends and family aren't going to remove me from their life. Like, I'm not going to get a slew of hate comments.
Right. No.
Most likely, nothing is going to happen, and I'll feel a little bit more free in doing so. Um,
Hmm.
but this process of like continuously expanding outside of your comfort zone, it's very interesting to observe in myself, because even doing things like this, like the podcast, the first time I did it, I was fucking horrified. I was terrified and judging myself the whole time. And now, like, I don't think about it. I just come on here and talk. And like, same thing when I started posting to TikTok, I thought, it would be this whole big wave and like my social circle. Nobody gave a fuck. Like, they were supportive.
Hmm.
And now I post TikToks and don't worry about it. So I guess Instagram is just the next step, and there will continue to be more things and more things that are outside of my comfort zone. So, um, trying not to judge myself on either end, right? Like, for not doing it, and trying not to judge myself when I'm doing those things. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's just such a nasty fucking habit of wanting to
Oh.
control. Ugh.
Oh, it's a habit, and it's sometimes I definitely feel that like I want to call it a nasty habit too, right? Because when we first started this podcast, when we first started adding to this Dualistic Unity podcast, you and I definitely felt nervous, and then we found our group. And then I went to the last retreat, and then I felt like in such a funk. And like Pat, after the California retreat, I definitely felt a little funky. It was just like things were brewing, and like certain attachments I was getting, my grip was getting a little looser. And then we went to the Denver retreat, and that shit blew up a couple of assumptions. And then afterwards I was just like, you were like, are we still on for this week? And I was like, yeah. And then we chatted, and I was like, we'll record it. We didn't record it. We totally did not, everybody. We just, Jackie and I chatted on Wednesday. We did not record an episode. I was definitely still in the thick of it, because it was just it wasn't pleasant to see how many insecurities, or how an old insecurity of not being enough, not doing enough, making the wrong choice. I felt so insecure about my move out here. I felt so insecure about leaving my job. I felt so insecure about selling all my shit and selling my car, and really taking this leap, and then thinking like, that the way that I did it wasn't smart, and I didn't save enough money beforehand. So like I went through this whole slew of shit, and I had thought that I was way more confident about this move. And it feels strange to say that I still feel very confident and very insecure about this just change, this recent change. It's not a big change, it's just a recent change, because sometimes, not moving out of the country, not changing jobs, my life has felt entirely different, right? So it doesn't have to be like these changes are big, they feel big. And I got to sit in that, and to feel the funk, and then to feel so like icky and out of it. Like I don't want to, like I'm not. I feel like I'm finding a different groove. And I liked how you talked about that. We never see the prison, but you do see the prisoner. Like I can't always see the prison that you built, because I don't know what materials you use. I don't know what insecurities make up the bars of the prison that surround you. I can't see what you use to make your prison, but I certainly can see the prisoner. I can see another prisoner feeling trapped, feeling powerless, feeling helpless, feeling overwhelmed. I can certainly see struggle. And And that is sometimes enough to remember that, I will just as easily feel free as I do limited, because I'm never getting rid of the insecurities, because those are still attached to the idea, right? And the goal, in my opinion, isn't to get rid of the concept of Amanda, because then I wouldn't be experiencing reality as it is through the lens of Amanda. So, if I can't get rid of the concept or the idea of her, then I also can't get rid of the attachments and the insecurities that were created with the concept of Amanda. So it's just like I'm feeling calm about the changes, and I'm feeling in, honest about how insecure and uncertain I feel about those same things, and it feels very weird.
I love the honesty. And as you were saying, like, it's not they're not big changes. They're just changes. They just are, right? Until you describe them or perceive them in a certain way. Because like for some people that have had even bigger changes happen to them, and like the literally their whole life gets flipped upside down,
Right.
that might, like, just moving and changing careers might not seem as big, right? It
Mhm.
literally is just from your perspective at any given moment. And I think I like what you said about not trying to get rid of the insecurities and the things that are attached to the concept, because you're right, we couldn't have this experience without perceiving ourselves as separate and living through this lens of Amanda or Jackie, right? Um, it's just about seeing it for what it is, and recognizing, yeah, I have all these feelings of insecurity and instability and uncertainty, but that has always kind of been the case. And anything like how I think this is going to go or where I'm at right now, they're all just thoughts. They're all just me desperately trying to cling on to something. And I
Yeah.
think you can make space for like feeling the emotions of being in this like tumultuous time, but
Mhm.
then recognizing, yeah, this isn't what I think it is ever. And sort of you can have this peace with it at the same time. So you're not making it harder on yourself. That's really the best that we can do, is not make things harder on ourselves than they already are. But that's like our mind's favorite fucking game is, let's see how much I can make myself suffer by going over all the little small details, all the moments that haven't happened yet,
Yeah.
and trying to figure them all out and stressing myself out in the present moment where I'm just sitting in a room chilling.
Right.
And I'm turning this moment into my own personal hell by overthinking it and trying to figure out where I'm at, when in reality, like, you're just where you've always been, right here. And that's changing the way that it always has been. So really nothing has changed. Everything's still changing.
Seriously, I'm freaking out, and it's just like I'm freaking out about usually a hypothetical, because usually if like I'm in the middle of something, let's say shit has hit the fan in this moment, like it's hard to worry about shit hitting the fan as it's actually shitting the fan, hitting the fan, it's shitting the fan. That's right.
As the fan is shitting.
I just had this visual. It's just,
And it's getting smacked around by the blades,
right. The shit just flying on all the walls.
smacking the
Like
walls. Yeah.
a shit tornado. Oh. Oh my god, sorry everyone. That's where my imagination went. It's a wild beast. I can't control the imagination. but but yeah, no, just thinking what you worry about is usually not happening in the moment. But it's so easy to get caught up in the worry because the worry feels so real. And it's like, of course it feels so real. You know, these are the thoughts that you're experiencing. These are the feelings that you are embodying. Like, of course, all of that feels incredibly real. It just may not actually be happening the way that you think. So one of the insights, or one of the kind of, I don't know, like overall themes of the weekend was just like, it's not what you think, right? Even if you do think everybody hates you, go out there and find out. You don't know for sure. You know, you think you've said the wrong thing, ask. Literally ask. You know, you think that you stepped on someone's toes, ask, find out, right? Because a lot of the times when we're worrying in silence, and and then we tie it to a scenario or to another person, but we rarely actually find out, you know. And sometimes it's because we think we know what the other person's going to say, and so normally I won't share, like if I'm feeling insecure about like not being enough or not doing enough. And you know, I'm chatting with Andrew and Ray, and they're both like, please share that, you know, because we're not only working together, we're friends. And you've said that to me. You're like, you know, opening up is not something to avoid, and it's not a burden. And just to say, you know, I'm feeling incredibly insecure right now, I'm feeling incredibly unsure, and yet somehow I'm here, and I don't know what that means, but I'm feeling a wave of shit right now. And just to say that doesn't necessarily mean that the other person is going to have to provide you a solution, offer something, a way to make you feel better, but just to say, yeah, like that happens, like that sucks. And just to listen, it's very much appreciated. So for everybody, you know, I definitely appreciate all the times that you not only encourage me or other people to share, but you are that space where somebody can share something with you. Because it's sometimes it feels like the most impossible task is just to ask, hey, did I actually fuck up? um but you can, like I had said before, you can see the prisoner. So I noticed that at the retreat there were some times that people were looking a little quiet, and then I had said that I was like, you know, somebody asked me, how's the move going, and I'm like, great and terrifying. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah, I'm incredibly insecure about it. And they're like, no. I was like, yeah, like incredibly insecure. I'm freaking out, I'm screaming on the inside right now, like, what have you done? What have I done? My destiny is forever changed. I don't know. I'm concert, you know, like I'm freaking out in this whole scenario in my head. What have you done? You don't know what you're thinking. This is reckless. This is crazy, right? I'm going through this whole thing, and sometimes people think that because I don't say it, I'm not going through it. But it's like, if you do ask, when someone did ask me, I was honest about the fact that it's not just pure calmness and confidence, that it very much is a very real wave of insecurity about not being sure about this. And no one can take that feeling away. No one can tell me this is going to work out. I don't know what's going to happen with DU. I don't know what's going to happen with my friendships with you, with Andrew, with Ray. I don't know what's going to happen with my relationships in the, you know, my friendships in the community. Like, I just don't know, and no one can give me that certainty. And so, just saying I'm freaking out is enough for me at this moment. And just being able to say that out loud means a lot in a way that I didn't expect, because I'm not running to my normal coping mechanisms the way that I used to, which was, you know, immediately try to get another job, immediately try to get busy, stay busy, be productive. And I'm just kind of sitting in this weirdness, and it feels strangely calm and so uncomfortable. That's what I mean. Like, it just feels so weird because it doesn't feel bad, but it doesn't feel great. So weird is the best I've got right now.
Yeah, like a growing pain. Like just that discomfort. I think maybe you feel calm because it's like something that you wanted to do and you did it. Like you pushed yourself to let go of everything that was familiar. Literally sold all your shit and moved to a new country. And so I think part of that is really empowering, right? Because it's like, oh, fuck, I did it. But then at the same time, all the discomfort of, okay, now I'm in a new, unfamiliar situation and I have all these loose ends that I don't know how it's going to go. And that's just the feeling of stepping out of your comfort zone. That's the feeling of growing. And it's awkward. Oh my God, it's awkward.
Yeah, that's another good word. Awkward as fuck.
But it's but like that's where you feel alive, right? And being alive is awkward as fuck. And so weird and just so uncertain and precarious. And you know, the uncertainty that you're feeling so strongly right now has always been there. And
Right.
so you're just embracing reality and and the recognition that you never know how anything is going to turn out. Even if you were to stay, in at home in Massachusetts and keep your same job, like there's no guarantee that you would be happy. And I think you knew that and that's why you made the move, right? So, yeah, just growth is fucking weird and I love that being able to just talk about it because I think that's what makes us feel so alone and so trapped in whatever it is we're going through because we feel like we need to save face and make it seem like we're confident
Right.
and comfortable, you know, stepping out of our comfort zone and forcing ourselves to grow. And
Ah.
I think most people, at least like on social media and stuff, it's very like people just show their highlights and um show like how they're changing, but like there's always like a positive spin on it and nobody's like, yeah, I'm growing and this is fucking weird and I don't feel better necessarily, but I know things are different now. And I love that about the DU community of the fact that we just can be real with each other. And like you said, like when you ask somebody, hey, did I fuck up, like they're not going to sugarcoat it for you. Like we're going to be honest with each other, but at the same time it's coming from a place of love, not a place of judgment. It's coming from a place of, yeah, I could see myself in that scenario because we all know what it is to be alive and just trying to do our best and navigating this landscape of um, like the human part of us wanting to cling on to safety and security, but then, you know, the true reality of what we are, pulling us towards the unknown and our curiosity and all these new adventures that actually make us fulfilled in life. And it is just an awkward place to be of navigating that
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out new motivations for doing things that aren't from judgment
Mm.
or fear, right? Um, and yeah, you can be that person even outside of this community as well. And I've loved seeing that in my own life, just like with my friends, being a little more candid and sharing something that I'm afraid to, and
Mm.
knowing that I don't know what the response is going to be. And
Nope.
most often that's the shit that really resonates. That's the shit that makes me feel close with other people. And so, yeah, I challenge you, listeners, and myself to be a little bit more raw and throw yourself out there a little bit more because you'll find that reality will catch you. You will catch yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no real threat.
Mm-mm. No, no, there definitely isn't. It's, call your bluff in a lot of ways. It felt like I called my doubts bluff when I was in the room by myself at the retreat, judging myself for not saying enough and then isolating myself and then feeling so alone. And they're like, yeah, well, of course we feel alone. We just isolated ourselves even more. And it's like, and so now, I switched to judging the isolation. And it's like, oh, now we're definitely not going to say anything. And it's like, yeah, well, so what? So what? Maybe I did fuck up. Maybe I ruined the experience for people at retreats. Find out. I am my label for my name today is FAAFO, which is just initial for fuck around and find out. Call your doubts bluff. Your doubt says that you fucked up and that it's going to be so awkward for you to reintroduce yourself back into a conversation that you voluntarily walked out of. Find out. Find out if it is going to be that awkward. And when I did reintroduce myself to that conversation and I went back to the retreat or into the group at the retreat, it was not as awkward as I thought. And it only felt awkward because I thought that it should be awkward, because I thought that leaving the group was wrong. I thought that the way that I was participating in the group was wrong, and then leaving was wrong. And so reintroducing myself back to the group must be wrong because we should have never left. Right. And so here we are judging all these things, and all that awkwardness that I was feeling when I walked out of my room and I went to chat with everybody. I started playing a game of pool. I was like, and I feel like I'm the only one freaking out about this. I feel like I'm the only one that feels awkward about me chatting after not chatting for a little bit. Like nobody cared, and nobody needs to, because no one is as invested in you doing the right thing as much as you are. Right? Because they're so concerned about them. And then there's real empathy that you can feel towards someone else, because as they may be talking over someone, you can recognize that is most likely coming from the same place that your awkwardness came from, which was that you're doing something wrong. Something's wrong with you. Something, you didn't make the right choice. And you can't ever be sure of that, because you never know what the ripple's going to be. And I forgot, and I reminded myself as I was reminding a friend, that you don't even have to directly engage with somebody. Like, everyone, have you ever been out and about running errands and you just happen to catch a stranger in your peripheral and they're just living their best life and they never said a word to you, and yet them dancing at a bus stop with their headphones on when no one's looking, and like the whole world's like out and about, and they're just living in their own world, and it's like, oh, there's a great party going on in that world. Fuck yeah. And you didn't even have to chat with them. Or you're just watching two friends in the grocery store in the aisle, and two friends, guys, girls, everybody in between, they're just cracking the fuck up. They're like crying over like a picture of a label on a fucking spaghetti sauce, pasta sauce. And they're like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. Their marketing team got away with this. Like, this is outrageous. Or, whatever it may be, whatever hypothetical. But like, they're having the best time just being in each other's company, right? They never chat with you. They never talk to you. You don't know them. You may never see them again. And yet that moment, as small and as insignificant as we say it is, because it's not this big, grandiose lights, camera, action, stage, bring up the curtains kind of moment. It's just a simple one-off moment with people that you may not actually know. And yet that ripple is sometimes more impactful than the ripple you expect after maybe you graduate and you're at the commencement ceremony, and you're shaking the hand of the dean and he's giving you your diploma, and you're like, this is such an important moment. This should have amazing, huge ripples. And yet that moment doesn't always have the same ripple as you seeing someone else live their best life, living authentically, living despite the fear, calling their doubts bluff, that, yeah, maybe everybody's judging me as I dance at this fucking intersection. And maybe someone is cheering in their car because they don't remember the last time that they danced with reckless abandonment in public. Like they were dancing like no one was watching, or they were dancing like no one was judging, even if they were watching. Right. And so like we think that our moments have to be big, and it's like, you never know what the ripple is, whether you're chatting with somebody, whether it's direct or indirect. You just never know if your big fuck up is such a fuck up, or an inspiration, or a seed for learning later. And you realize, oh, no wonder I was talking over everybody. I was scared that if I wasn't talking, I wasn't valuable. So I was trying to shout to prove my value before it was too late. But it's never too late, because your life is always here. So it's just dare to be unsure, like doubt the doubt, and just see and ask. If you're really, really curious, if you really can't stop thinking about a certain fuck up or a certain choice or a certain decision, you really want to find out, ask. Ask the people around you, because most likely they're going to be like, I didn't even know that was a problem. Everything's totally fine, Amanda. There's no, it's not DEFCON 5 or DEFCON 1. I never remember which is the worst one, but whichever one's the worst one, it's never that.
Yeah, they very well could have thought you just went to the bathroom. Like,
Right.
no idea, because nobody else hears your thoughts
No.
and feels the tension that you're feeling in any given moment. And they just see, you know, externally what you're showing. And um, sometimes you can see the way people are caught up in their mind in a moment because maybe they're being a little bit extra quiet. But you're right, it can look very different. So there's no way that anybody else could know. And most likely, even if they see that you're caught up in your own shit,
Right.
they're not judging you. Like and if they are, even that is a ripple. Even people judging you is a ripple that they can look at. And I know that because in myself, I've caught myself like scrolling on social media and judging somebody and then being like, I'm judging them for this. So that must mean I judge myself for this. Oh, that's interesting. And I didn't maybe know that that was something that I was holding on to. And so even people judging you is an opportunity and a ripple, and it's valuable. And it's a win-win because at the same time, you're freeing yourself. You're daring to be uncomfortable and to actually find out what it is that you're capable of, or like what it is that you want to express. And it feels fucking good to just let yourself express. And yeah, I guess there's always a risk with everything. People could judge you, but that only can touch you when you're clinging onto an idea that you're this thing
Yeah.
that's stagnant and can be judged as good or bad. And that is just way too complicated. You are way too complicated of a being,
Mm-hmm.
and you could be perceived in countless different ways. So one person holding a judgment of you isn't the end all be all of what you are, but it can feel that way when you're hyperfixating on it. There's always more to find out, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it is just a process of continuously allowing yourself to fuck around. And you don't have to fuck around at a certain rate
Nope.
or speed. um, it's just whenever you feel like it,
Right.
really. Like, and back to my example, like with Instagram, I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to now create a new bar of, oh, I need to post this many times
No.
a week or whatever. It's just kind of like, oh, when I feel the desire to, I will.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I don't have to hold myself back in the way that I previously have. Um, but giving yourself just the space to kind of make the moves, but in your own time
Mm-hmm.
and in a way that's authentic to you. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's funny how we create new bars as soon as we kind of let go of old ones. Like,
Right.
fuck all them bars. That's all I have to say.
Right.
Big.
Yeah, yeah. Felt right. Felt right. Purple the two birds. Bloop. but definitely, I like that you talked about the risk, right? Because you say like the risk of judgment, the risk you could not live. You could not live. Like, oh my God, how is that not like that is not like a radical thought to us? Just, oh, I could be judged or I could not live my life. Like, how is
Well,
that
when
not?
you put it like that.
Like, oh my God, I'm not living for myself. I'm not living honestly. I'm not living fully. How could anything be more important? How could the perception of how you live your life be more important than actually how you live your life? Fucking bonkers, the shit that we do sometimes. I'm like, It's a reflection. Damn it, it's a phantom. I'm living for a phantom. I'm like, oh my goodness. And and it's just so easy because we see it all the time, and there's so many reinforcements, right? So it's not like we just came out of nowhere. It's not like I just was dropped on this planet. But speaking of getting dropped on this planet, that's a great exercise. It's a great imagination. Sometimes and I've heard this from friends who have done this, like, just imagine you got dropped on this planet right now with exactly at your age, exactly with your skill set, with exactly the circumstances of your life right now. If you were dropped onto this planet with those exact circumstances, what the fuck would you do? You would be dropped onto this in this hypothetical imagination scenario. You wouldn't be dropped in with an insecurity about those circumstances. You would just be dropped in with exactly the circumstances of your life, and with no regret, with no insecurity. What would you do? And you just get to look at your life from like this fresh, hopefully fresh perspective. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm born on this planet in this country with this quote unquote gender concept and these circumstances. And it's like, meet cool people, bowling, maybe, cooking, going for walks, like, just cartwheeling because the legs and the arms are still working. So we're like, yes, cartwheel. Fuck, man. Like, it just feels in it, almost like ripe with potential. If you could imagine yourself being dropped into your life without any insecurities, what would you do? And I've heard this in phrase in another way. If you weren't scared right now, what would you do? If you had no fear, what would you do? And it's not to say that, all of a sudden I'd be like, I'd build an empire and I'd rule the worlds with no fear. It's like, no, with no fear, if you actually are honest with yourself, it's not that without fear, you think, oh, I would want to control people. Is that without fear, you would just explore without hesitation. You would be curious without concern. You would be excited without the weight of expectation, right? And so that's what I imagine we would do if we really had no fear. Not that without fear, without rules, we would just be reckless. It's like, no, I think without fear, we would be so light, so excited, so enthusiastic that you wouldn't even think, oh, I'm not less or more or better or worse or richer or fucking poor or thinner. Like, if you had no fear, I don't think you'd be even think to compare yourself, because a lot of my comparisons, in my opinion, come from the fear that I don't measure up to someone else. If I had no fear, I don't think I would think of being more competitive. I feel like I would just be a lot more there would just be a lot less hesitation. If there was no fear, there'd also be a lot less hesitation, in my opinion.
Just uninhibited.
Right.
Yeah, just expressing
Oh.
probably the same sort of things that you already do, just faster, without like the delay of the hesitation and the judgment that normally we hold ourselves back with. And we wouldn't be afraid of failing or looking stupid. So there's nothing that would stop us from trying. Um, and so we could move forward all that much faster. Not that it's about moving forward at any sort of rate, but it kind of puts into perspective that the fear isn't actually helping you in any sort of way. It's actually hindering you, or buying into the fear, rather. Like, you can do it scared. And everybody who's ever done anything has had to do it scared. When you took your first steps, you were probably terrified, right? The first day at your new job, whatever, you were probably terrified, and then you worked there for a year and you're good. Like, you don't have to think about it. The first time we podcasted, I mentioned, terrifying. The first time I taught a yoga class, terrifying. The more times I do it, it's less and less so. But I love that exercise of just what would you do if you weren't thinking about it so hard, or you weren't thinking about yourself so much? And it becomes really clear in that moment what the next step can and should be. And then you could just keep doing that. And I also like thinking about sort of that pull we have towards things that are outside of our comfort zone. I think that's a really interesting feeling. And when you think about it in the context of time, this is something that Ben and I were talking about. I was on his podcast yesterday, so that should be coming out soon. Little plug for
Oh,
Ben's podcast. Yeah, the Ebb and Flow podcast. We were talking about how maybe that feeling of like being drawn towards a certain path or just an interest that we have is because, time, all moments exist at once, and right, and maybe there is a future out there where you already are doing the thing, and that makes sense in retrospect. Like, looking back at my life, the way I was drawn to Dualistic Unity makes sense because now I'm a fucking co-host, right?
oh yes,
so
absolutely.
so like, learning to just trust those feelings too, and know that even if what you're being drawn towards feels really fucking uncomfortable and maybe just outside of what you planned for your life to look like, I guess for you, moving across the country was probably not something that you foresaw happening a couple years ago, but you felt the draw to do it, and you did, and right now it feels uncomfortable, but give it 6 months and I feel like it'll make a lot more sense. And we just have to have patience with ourselves in those moments of discomfort and just be like, okay, it doesn't make sense now, but it will eventually, the way everything always does. And um, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
Yeah. No,
that
no.
was kind of the end of that thought, I think.
Hey, that's all right. We jump in. Ultimately what I got from that was jump in, and and be patient. Jump in and be patient that the step that you're on may not look like it's connected to a well laid out path, right? But it doesn't matter if you can't see the whole path. Make the most of the step that you're on. Jump in for the step that you're on, because give it enough time, it makes sense. The steps that you've been on, because it is all connected. It does make sense that it has its own kind of trajectory. It's just not always linear. It's not always so bullet points laid out, super logical, super, just very linear. It's not always going to look like that, but your squiggly line path makes total sense for you, and the squiggles make total sense when you give yourself that, when you have enough patience to just not think that it has to look a certain way, or that the next few steps have to look a certain way or go in a certain direction. It's just, you won't know. You won't ever know. And I appreciate that a lot more now, because when I was younger, I remember feeling like not knowing was a problem. Like, if somebody asked me a question and I said I don't know, I was horrified. And now I'm not as bothered with just with being unsure, because I realized that being unsure isn't a death sentence. Not knowing doesn't prevent me from living my best life, from dancing like a maniac in the streets, like, it doesn't, like, I'd prefer to feel crazy, to feel weird, to feel awkward. I'd prefer to feel those things than to play a narrative, to play a role, right? Because I love the way that you put it. Like, it is awkward, but you feel alive. And when I am doing the things that look great on paper and only on paper, I feel empty. I feel dead, because there's no life. There's no life in a dead plan, right? And so I feel like, to some degree, someone had said something along the lines of, the best played, the best plans um, are great until something goes wrong. Essentially, that's what I'm remembering, and I'm sure it was said differently. Um, because you can't plan for everything. You can't plan for every scenario. You can't plan for every ripple. You can't plan for every scenario that could happen. And so your well thought out, best laid plan is great until something goes wrong. And you don't need to know everything, because the plan is dead. It's this is how it's going to be. You go left, then right, then we take a turn at the tree, we hop over the rock, we go over the river. Like that's the plan. There's no life, there's no movement, there's no consideration, there's no adjustments. It's just this is how it is. Left, right, hop over the tree, blah 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 blah. Life isn't like that. Our experiences aren't like that, and so it's like, oh, we've taken a left. There's a rock. Oh shit, can we go over it? Like, like life feels very much like it's living, it's breathing, it's moving, it's growing. Like, so you couldn't control something that's living because it's unfolding as it's going. And so, but something dead, you could know, like this chair, which is so funny that I would say the chair because I can't even say for sure the chair is dead or not. But in this scenario, the chair is just here. It doesn't move. It sits here. And it's like that's great. I know the chair. There's not really much happening here. It doesn't feel very alive, right? But the walk, oh man, I don't know who I'll encounter. I don't know what the weather will be like. I don't know if there's gonna be a car, somebody gonna try to run me over. You don't know, and so it feels like a walk feels very much alive. And I appreciate that more because it's not something that's predictable. But because it's not predictable, it's something that I get to explore. I get to find out. I get to learn. And I can't learn what I already know. And that's it's not as bitter of a pill as I thought it would be. The not knowing.
It's actually beautiful and it's a gift. Like even the uncomfortable feelings are beautiful because what if you didn't feel that? What if you were just 100% confident all the time? There wouldn't be any really excitement. It would kind of just be
Mm,
neutral. And yeah,
right.
you might be like doing more things and you would think that would make you feel better, but like if you didn't have the feeling of uncertainty and fear and discomfort, like you wouldn't be able to appreciate what that growth and um the like exhilarating feeling of pushing yourself out of the comfort zone would be.
Right.
So yeah, I like that you mentioned like the squiggly path and how we feel, it might not make sense, but it doesn't make sense really when you're only zooming in on just the one path. But when you zoom out and you see that our paths intersect with every single person and
Mhm.
thing around us, and it's all working out in a way that is perfect at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it does make sense. And it might not be the way that we planned for things to go, but more often than not, it ends up being better and
Right.
more beautiful and more uh, intricate
And
than we ever
fuller.
could have imagined. Yeah, full. And it's like a dance between our individual will, I guess, which is still the will of the whole. And it's beautiful to watch those things interact and even to think of like the hesitation and those moments of courage where you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it, and you take the leap. There's a place for all of that within this dance that's already happening, and it makes it more interesting. And we can just have grace for ourselves in any part of that process that we're in, and just know that whatever it is that we're thinking, whether we're overly confident about a decision we're making, we're like, yes, this is the right thing to do, or we're completely like, I don't fucking know, but I'm just going out on a limb here and I'm going to see how it goes. Like, all of that is part of it. And none of those thoughts really are true. Like, you're always sitting in the same equal amount of uncertainty, no matter how confident or unconfident you feel in whatever decision you're making. And I think just knowing that really helps rather than believing that, oh, yeah, I'm making the right choice, or being like, oh, no, I completely made the wrong choice. You just don't know. You really just can't know, and admitting that, even though it's not common to admit that because everyone wants to seem like they have it all together, like admitting that is freeing and empowering, and it really makes you look at your life with a new appreciation of like, damn, I've never fucking known, and yet still I'm here and I'm doing the damn thing. And I'm going to keep doing it and doing my best the same way I always have, and just an excitement for what's going to happen. I'm just excited to find out. I'm not excited for a specific end result that I'm hyper fixated on.
Nope.
I'm just kind of excited to see where my path goes and where this river of potential pushes me.
Yes, fuck yes. I love that, Jackie. That is fantastic. We are coming up in the next 5 minutes. We're gonna be wrapping up because I'm going camping with Ray and Andrew, and it's gonna be great. And or I don't know. I have a feeling there's a high probability it could be great. We'll find out. But I'm excited to find out. And just going, just keep going, jumping in, regardless of the hesitation, regardless of the fears, just jump in anyways, because I'd rather experience, I'd rather go through the experience than wonder. And a lot of times when I'm talking with older people or just people in general, regardless of age, like what tends to come up a lot in conversation are the things that we don't do, the ways that we hold ourselves back. And even when I'm chatting with people and they bring up a memory about like, oh man, I don't know what I was thinking, this job definitely made no sense for me. This person that I was dating, this whatever, this I don't know, this friend that I had, I don't know why I was friends with them. They were so toxic, they're always, either way, like no matter what it is, like you learn so much from the decisions that you make, from the experiences that you have, whether you call them good or bad. And so, more often, I hear regret over what wasn't done, what exploration wasn't pursued, over I wish I never did that. Because even from the I wish I never did that, but now I learned a new consideration, so it's very unlikely that I'll do that thing again. But it's only because of the experience of being in that scenario to begin with is why I have the consideration to not make that same choice, to not make it from that same place of need or fear or doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So even the things that you do that you regret, you've learned so much from them and you've changed. And it's a reminder for all of us to appreciate the person that's sitting in the room with us right now, and how all of those steps, good or bad, led us here. And there's an appreciation just to be here and to just keep going. So I wanted to make a quick announcement about our DU Life Troubleshooter. ChatGPT has made the ChatGPT store available for everyone. You don't have to pay for a plan anymore. So our DU Life Troubleshooter is available for everyone. Check it out. I fucking love that thing. You can have it on your phone, by the way. I had it on my laptop, right? So I was feeling all like fancy on my laptop, and now I realized that there's a ChatGPT phone app, and so I was like, oh, we can take fancy on the road. Let's go. So now and I ask it questions and I'm like, why do I feel so insecure? And what would you think about this business idea? And so like the questions vary. Like it's not, I recommend check it out. I love it. And another thing that we're helping is with Fidelium, an award-winning musicians, a violinist group. They are incredible. We've partnered with them, and they have a show this Monday. So if you're in Nanaimo, or if you can get to the island, they're having a show at the Port Theater this Monday, June 10th, I believe is the date. But we have the link on our website and on our social media. So check the links now and our QR codes. But yeah, no, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And thank you, Jackie, for your patience and just for doing your thing and for being space to share whatever it is we're doing together. I really appreciate it.
Of course, Amanda. And likewise, I love going on this journey and taking these steps with you. But yeah, for real, check out Fidelium, check out the troubleshooter. And remember, you can't find out if you don't fuck around. And you're still gonna want to know. So you might as well fuck around a little bit today. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. We'll see you next Friday for another episode of Do You Real?
1 p.m.
Peace.
Pacific.